Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Just back to do a little bit of an international break, Tottenham Hotspur roundup. I'm not really going to touch international stuff though. Just there's enough little bits and pieces around Spurs in the last week or so that we can have a bit of a deep dive into, and I look forward to that. There's a little derby coming up as well that we probably have to start focusing on too. Before I get into all of the Spurs stuff, just want to say a huge thank you. For those who might not be aware, I mentioned a couple of videos ago, probably, 2-3 weeks ago, that I will be running the TCS London Marathon next year. Because I'm a bit mad, absolutely crazy. I don't know why I'm doing it. My body is telling me I shouldn't be doing it. But the other day, I set up a fundraising page because I'm going to be raising money for Cancer Research UK. It's just such an absolutely awful, rubbish group of diseases that just, let's be honest, we probably all know someone that's been affected by it. And my family has certainly been affected by it over the years as well. So anyway, I set up this page on Thursday. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I just thought, you know what? If by the time I run the marathon, I could get to about £1,000, I would be absolutely ecstatic by that. Stuck it out there on social media and just thought, there you go, let's see what happens. I wasn't expecting how kind people were going to be. People have been absolutely wonderful. So bearing in mind, about £1,000 was roughly what I was kind of thinking would be awesome if I could get to the end of it and on the day run and have that. It made £1,000 in its first 45 minutes or so, just under an hour. And every hour seemed to be adding another £1,000 or so. Just amazing. I went to see later on, it was on Friday night actually, I went to see Back to the Future, the musical, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant show in the West End. At the interval, I said to my wife, total's massively jumped up again, just like while we've been at this show. And I realised someone had made a $1,000 donation. It's just incredible what people are doing. And it was an anonymous donation. It was in dollars, $1,000. So, but you couldn't tell whether it was Australian dollars, American dollars, whatever it was. So, of course, that led to, was it? Oh, there's various Australian peoples at the club. I don't think it is. I think it's just some very, very generous person. I half expected Larry David to come out somewhere. I'm anonymous. Curb Your Enthusiasm reference there for people that watch that. But I've just had so many donations from people of all sizes of donations as well. Just like incredible stuff. Just any amount that people are saying, I'm waiting for my paycheck, I'm struggling, I'm in my overdrive. Like just anyone like that, I'm just like, oh my goodness, you don't have to kind of thing. It's just remarkable. The last time I looked, bearing in mind, like I said, £1,000 would have been amazing. Last time I looked, it's £12,551. 708 people have donated. It's just incredible. It makes such a psychological difference as well. Obviously, it's going to make a fantastic thing to be able to give to such a great cause. But psychologically, even on a weird little level for me, I went and did a run today, like a 10-mile run. I've done a couple of 10-miler now just to start building up my body to some kind of tolerance to a longer run. After I did 10Ks first, I didn't just jump into a 10-mile. I did my 10, and this was the first run I'd done since the page had gone up. My run today was 7.5 minutes faster than the 10-mile run I did before the page went up. It's just clearly in my brain like, I've got to do this. I can't let people down now. They've been incredibly generous. So, absolutely blown away. You know what I'm like. I don't ask for likes and subscriptions, things like that on the videos. So if I'm going to ask for something, it'll be something like this. And people have just absolutely come out in force. It's been amazing. But yeah, I've got to run the thing now. I've got to think of some other maybe fundraising little things I'll do. I was half contemplating doing a live stream on the day. I don't know how that would work safety-wise and me just running into people or just needing my breath to, that I would use to talk to actually run the thing. But we'll see. We'll think of other things. I wasn't going to do it in a Spurs shirt, but I think I might have to do it in a Spurs shirt now because so many Spurs fans have been so brilliant. So I might have to do it in a Spurs shirt. I can't decide whether to do a current one or a retro one, but that's all for later time. I've got a few months now to figure this all out. But just wanted to start this off. Normally I'd do little personal things at the end and stuff like that. I just wanted to do it at the start because people have just been incredible. And it genuinely so kind of, I was quite choked up about it. It's very kind of just awesome. It's just absolutely awesome. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to everyone that has, and anyone that, maybe still wants to donate or hadn't even realised I was doing it, I'm going to pin the link to my fundraising page in the comments below. It'll be up the top if you want to scroll down. It's absolutely up to you. I genuinely didn't expect anyone to really bother. That's kind of just the way I am, and just so many people have. It's incredible. Right, enough about that and all of that. Let's talk about something else that's probably going to be as painful as the doing the marathon, and that's supporting Tottenham Hotspur, of course. A chat about them. I think the best place to start about Spurs, Europa League squad decision. Let's talk about that. I've been saying in recent weeks it's going to be a tough decision, and there were going to be stuff to it, and people were saying it doesn't matter and all of that. Here we go. This is what's I've been trying to warn people about. I was kind of the guy holding the sign like, the end is nigh, the end is coming, doom. It's not quite that bad, but I kind of figured there was going to have to be a difficult choice to make. I must admit, I still didn't expect him to pick Djed Spence and Postecoglou. I think we all knew Sergio Reguilón was going to be one of them. Two players had to be left out. This was the other issue. If they'd signed someone else, it was going to be another player would have to be left out. But as it is, two players, Sergio Reguilón one. Reguilón makes sense. Look, it's a marriage where both parties just want it to end. It's a case of finding him somewhere with the remaining transfer windows open that will match his wages. That's another issue with a player like that, and whether they just financially sit out the year. It potentially could be something for him. Or maybe, I guess, Spurs could potentially come to an agreement with him, a bit like they did with Tongi, perhaps. I suppose that's the other way of doing it, especially with the Premier League season. You could come to an agreement with him and he could then be a free agent and I guess be registered. Yeah, I'd imagine you could be registered before the window closes if you're a free agent. I think. Because it technically isn't part of the transfer window. I'd have to double check that. I may just be off the cuff saying that and it might not be possible. But I'm pretty sure there's some free agents that still Serie A clubs are looking at. So maybe it does, maybe. Don't hold me to that. Look, the main windows that are left open. The Greek window closes September the 11th. That is, 3 days' time. The Swiss one is the day after that. Probably the one that we'd imagine would be the busiest is the Turkish window. That you've got until September 13th, which is Friday, isn't it? Besiktas have been linked with a move for Reguilón before. Jose Mourinho and Fenerbahce would be an interesting one. Obviously, you might remember Jose was the one that brought Reguilón to Spurs, so maybe that could be a potential. We'll see. That's just me surmising that maybe he will look at his former player. But yeah, we'll find out how it goes. But yeah, I didn't expect Postecoglou to go for Djed Spence as the second one. The probably one that I think I've spoken about before, which I think most people thought would be the logical one, I suppose, would be Fraser Forster. 36-year-old goalkeeper, hasn't played a game of football for the club in more than a year. Only recently returned from a fractured foot, which he suffered in February. And in terms of numbers, he's probably less crucial if you're purely looking at numbers, because Brandon Austin and Alfie Whiteman, the club's only two outfield players. Obviously, you've heard me talk about this before. They have no outfield club-trained players of a senior level. Max Robson, people have pointed out, is, but technically just not part of the first-team setup. He's not. Talented player, could have a good Football League career for him ahead of him. I don't think, he hasn't really kind of got into... I think he was maybe involved in one of the early friendlies in the summer, but never really more so than that. So he was never really going to be a solution to this. We've seen it. The squad's there. It's a 23-man squad. They had to leave two spaces for the two club trained spots they could not fill, that's bad squad management from the recent years to have got to that point. But back to the goalkeepers, you've got Brandon Austin, you've got Alfie Whiteman. So that's two goalkeepers. You've also, of course, got Guillermo Vicario, so that's three. And you've got young Luca Gunter, a talented young goalkeeper, only just signed a 5-year contract with the club, and he can be on the B list, which in Europe, a little bit different from the Premier League one, but essentially has academy players, or players who have played, I think it's between the ages of 18 and 21, for 2 years or more at the club. So, you've got three goalkeepers already. Do you really need to have a fourth goalkeeper? From the outside looking in, yeah, you got to question it. Why is there a need for four goalkeepers? I'm guessing from the inside, and we'll get this answer on Friday, I think he just it's a big indicator he just doesn't trust the other backup keepers enough, that he thinks he needs the experience of Fraser Forster, former England goalkeeper, in there. I'm intrigued to see, because I presumed it would be Fraser Forster maybe play Carabao Cup games, Vicario the Premier League, and Brandon Oster would play Europa League games. Maybe that will be switched. We'll see. Maybe Vicario said, I want to play them all. I don't know. Maybe it's just like being really greedy. I don't know. I'd imagine not, but I don't know. We'll find out on Friday what it's all about, really. But just, for me, and look, who am I to question, the manager's decisions or that, when I don't have, I'm not there on the inside all the time. But numbers-wise, it kind of is a very risky move to pick Djed Spence as the one you're leaving out. Because, look, first off, on a personal level, he's done really well this summer. He's impressed Postecoglou, he's impressed the coaching staff. He's already been used in 2 of the 3 Premier League games, I think, so far. So he's there, he's part of it. And Postecoglou's really happy with him. And he offers something that fits into the system quite well. He is also cover for that left-hand side as well. Not perfect, but he can fit in there as well as a left-sided option. Taking him out of there, suddenly the defensive options, which we know needed probably another centre-back anyway, or left-back, are looking even more stretched. Because now you've got 7 players for 8 different roles that you can use within the back 4. You know what I mean? So 2 for each spot. Taking him out of there, that means that, let's be honest, you're probably going to have to, after every single Premier League game, 3 days later, play one of those defenders again in the Europa League. Look, there's different ways of looking at this. Some people hate it when they make rotations and change things up. But just being logical, you can't keep the same players playing every 3 days, every single game, because you want to win everything. Because ultimately they're going to either tire very dramatically or they're going to pick up an injury because they're tired. And the whole point, I guess, was improving the squad to a level in various departments that you could swap one player out for another and the quality doesn't dip, which is what it has done when we've seen over the years when Spurs have made lots of changes. But yeah, if you're looking at, let's say, the first choice right now for the Premier League starting backline is Porro, Romero, Van der Ven and Doggy, you've probably now only got Radu Dragusin, Ben Davies as a centre-back cover. You're probably going to have to use Archie Gray as a right-back. That kind of leaves you now with one other spot to cover. I mean, who covers left-back, for instance? You could say Ben Davies does, but then you're going to have to bring in one of the other centre-backs into the team that just played 3 days earlier. And it's not even taking into account further injuries. This is Tottenham Hotspur after all. There could quite easily be further injuries. It's one he's going to have to be questioned on. We're going to question him about it on Friday and be interesting to see how he reacts, whether he's like, stuff you, it's my decision, which I don't think he will be, or whether he, there's a little bit more to it that we didn't see. Some people suggesting maybe Forster has it in his contract that he plays Europa League games if that was what he to play. I don't know if you would have that in a contract. That would seem quite a big guarantee to make someone. But yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. They've got until, I think it's February. February, I think, would be the end of the group, this big expanded group stage. To change it, you would have for the knockout stages, you can make a few tweaks and alterations to it. So if anything changes over that time, it's not going to change in terms of club train. That's not going to be different. I guess the only thing really is if he decided maybe there's an injury. Someone's injured, they're going to miss a big chunk of the season, they come out of it. I remember, I think it was Eric Lamela came out of it one season because he was injured. There's been some tough choices over the years. I remember Foyth was left out by Pochettino, and I remember him saying it was one of the toughest things his dad had to do, tell him that he wasn't going to play Champions League football. Joe Rodon had to miss out. I remember Jose saying about that was a difficult one because he just said, I feel I had to stick with the players who were there in the first half, and he didn't get back into it when they got into the knockout stages as well of the season. So, we could see it coming from a mile off, just maybe didn't expect it to be Djed Spence. It does create one opportunity, and that for me would be someone like Alfie Dorrington. Alfie Dorrington's kind of last man standing a little bit in terms of kind of the very good young centre-backs at the club. He's only 19 years old. He's been out with a hamstring injury, second one of last season. He's just returned to kind of doing bits and pieces of training. I think he's going to start to be used in games, tentatively as this month goes on. And I think maybe starting-wise, probably you're looking at October. But it's a chance for him. It's a chance for him as the games come thick and fast and potentially there's injuries. He's a good player. He's like a dominant ball-playing defender. Very, very good with the ball. There was a goal in the one of the Youth Cup finals, Premier League. I'm saying maybe, I'm trying to think it was under 17s or under 18s. But one of them, he went on a really lovely long run and then played it off for someone to score. It was either Mikey Moore or Jamie Donnelly. I can't remember who it was now. I can't remember. But anyway, it was a lovely kind of bit of defensive play. And you can see he's got that kind of almost like Rio Ferdinand-esque bringing the ball up the pitch and being very confident doing it. It's a bit of a stretch back in time to go there, but there you go. And of course it's a blow for Djed Spence, not even forgetting his feelings and how he's kind of worked so hard to get back into the position where he's back in just the whole kind of wheelhouse and the selection of options that Postecoglou's got. I think he would have got a load of game time in this competition as well. That's what's frustrating. Because look, they've got to play Karabag, Ferencvaros, RZ Alkmaar, Galatasaray, Roma, Rangers, Hoffenheim, Elfsborg. They got loads of games, 8 games over the months ahead. He would have played loads, whether it be at right back or left back. So it feels like a massive missed opportunity in that regard. And look, we'll see. This is Spurs, so quite easily there could very quickly be a centre-back issue. There could quite easily be a full-back issue where you just think, if Djed Spence was there. And who knows, Forster may... he's going to have to use Forster now, really, if it's not Vicario, because otherwise the decision is going to kind of be a little bit pointless. But we'll see. We'll see. Like I say, Friday, the North London Derby press conference is going to have to explain it all to us. Because look, defensive-wise, actually, there is a missing defender in the first game because Christian Romero cannot play. Christian Romero can't play against Karabag, which is September 26th. I kind of put that out there, and people are like, oh well, like you'd want him to play anyway. It's fine. It's not a big game, but it's more about the cover. There isn't suddenly cover for him, and the reason he's not playing is because of the red card. You might remember it 2 seasons ago when Spurs were last in Europe. He picked up a yellow card, I think it was 17th minute against Milan at home in the second leg, and then he picked up another one in the 77th minute. Remember a late lunge on Theo Hernandez. Spurs ended up going out. It was 0-0 second leg. First leg was 1-0, and with 10 men, made it much harder for him to try and get anything from the game. That was Romero's kind of season where it was a bit like, what are you doing kind of thing. 2 red cards, 11 yellow cards. He did loads of suspensions because of the amount of yellow cards and those reds. That red card has lingered because Spurs haven't been in Europe since that point. They went straight out of the competition that night and they didn't play European football last year. And what happens with these red cards is that they carry over to all competitions in Europe, which is a pain in the backside. And although it's 2 seasons on from the dismissal, Article 72 of UEFA's rules states that the time limit on the enforcement of decisions for individuals is 2 years for 1 or 2 match suspensions. His red card, Romero's, came on March the 8th, 2023. So he is within those 2 years. And UEFA confirmed it to me that he must serve his suspension against Karabag. Because it's still active. So, you've got Van der Ven just coming back from injury. They're going to want to be a little bit careful with him. Romero's not available. You'd imagine Dragoshin and Davies play as a centre-back pairing. Archie Gray at right-back. You're probably going to need Destiny Udogie to play left-back. And Destiny Udogie has only just come back himself from an injury that he's been out with since April. So it puts a lot of pressure on that defence, taking Djed Spence out of it. It really does. Unless there's something else I haven't thought of, or we all haven't thought of. And I don't know, some other player that we haven't thought of that can play there. It's a big call. And invariably, if a manager makes a big call at Spurs, it's very quickly shown up by the fickle finger of fate. Fickle finger of football fate. I was trying to do as many as I could. Fickle finger of football fate. Yeah, that works. Nice bit of alliteration there. So yeah, we'll see. But that wasn't great. What else we had? Lucas Bergvall did an interesting interview with Aftonbladet, the Swedish media outlet. That had some interesting little bits in it. First off, you might remember against Bayern Munich, he had that scary little moment where he kind of went down. It looked like he was either choking or being sick, and all his teammates were kind of calling for the physios to get on. So he confirmed exactly what happened. It sounds like he had a nightmare start to that game. He said, first my boot broke completely. It just opened up. Then I took a caffeine chewing gum to get started a bit after that. I forgot to take out the gum and it went into my throat and it was hard to breathe. It never felt like there was anything dangerous, but it was just a bit uncomfortable. I tried to bring it up, but I was calm. It looked a little worse than it was and felt. I was a little uncomfortable though. It was a little hard to breathe. That was probably what caused a slight panic. I took the gum to get a little extra boost. It's probably a bit of a placebo effect too. I use it a little now and then if I might feel like a little bit more tired some days, if you want a little extra energy, but it's not something I want to get used to. As I said, it's probably mostly a placebo thing, which means like the psychological effect of it rather than the actual medical effect. He spoke also. I've called him Bergvall already. I've already ruined my whole thing. I'm supposed to stick to the pronunciation. Bergvall. He said about his season so far, I don't know what my expectations were before, to be honest. I came into a tough but fun pre-season. It was very new. I just wanted to start playing football again after the holiday break. The only thing I knew was that it would be tough. It was a motivation when I came to a new league with new people, new teammates, new coaches, new facilities, diet, training, physical activity, everything. Feels like I've taken very big steps these 2 months, that I get into it more and more and have been able to adapt more to the game that is played in the Premier League. The quality of the players, the teams you face, is incredible quality everywhere. It's not possible to make that many mistakes or any mistakes at all. You must always be ready. This is in case regardless of where you play, but now it can be punished a little easier. Which leads quite nicely into Bergvall being shouted at by Vicario, which we spoke about in a previous video after the Leicester game late on, and he was asked about that. He said, look, sometimes you do slightly worse things, sometimes you do better things. We were 1-0 up with a fairly comfortable lead. We conceded and made it 1-1, and then that happens when he lost the ball. All is calm now. We've talked about it. Vicario said there are hot feelings and things like that can happen. So yeah, all sorted out, not an issue. There was also a funny little reveal about his initiation song. If you haven't seen this, have a little guess before I say it, what it would be. I think maybe the band, let's say, it would probably be more obvious, but maybe not the one I would have gone for myself if I'd chosen what he would have sung. Here are his quotes. I sang ABBA's Dancing Queen. It was really, really bad. I was booed afterwards by his teammates. It's harsh. It's 18-year-old. But there you go. Welcome to the Premier League. I wouldn't have suggested he would have gone for Dancing Queen. I wouldn't have thought that would be the one. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Maybe would have been quite a topical one with his best mate, Decky, there. But yeah, there you go. Things we learn. Another young midfielder I'm going to talk about quickly, Alfie Devine. Alfie Devine has now completed, we spoke about this I think in the previous video, that this was going to happen. He's now completed season-long loan move to Belgian side KVC Westerlo. He's 20 years old, Alfie Devine, Spurs' youngest goalkeeper, if you remember. Youngest goal scorer. Scored against Marine in the FA Cup when he was just 16. He will link up at Westerlo with Luka Vuskovic, who obviously you may be aware, a centre-back who joins Spurs next year when he turns 18. Another loan experience for Alfie Devine. Played at Port Vale in League One at the start of last season. Went to Plymouth in the Championship for the second half of the season. Did well in the summer as well in pre-season. The Postecoglou made a bit of a positive impact. A few performances from the bench when he really kind of was head and shoulders, I'd say, above some players. I think he played 5 of the 6 pre-season friendlies. I think I've said this story before, exactly kind of what went a little bit wrong maybe with his loan kind of chances this season, in this summer, was that there was a string of interested Championship clubs looking at him. They were told earlier in the summer that it was probably likely to stay at Spurs. They all went off and kind of looked for different targets. And then near the end of the summer, Spurs said, "Oh, yeah, you can go on loan if you want." I was like, "Oh," I'm sure they didn't say exactly like that, but you know what I mean. And many of those teams that had then, liked him, then had gone off to other targets. They'd signed them. And there was still a bit of interest in him towards the end of the English window, but nothing came to fruition. And he was named on the bench, wasn't he, against Newcastle as well. And I guess, there was a few leagues left open. Belgium was one of them. Europa Pro League, he's going to be able to use his technique and it's going to suit his game quite nicely. Straight loan, no option to buy. I think some clubs, from what I understand, were kind of putting in bids for him of a loan with an option to buy, and Spurs weren't really looking at that because they kind of believe he can be something pretty decent as time goes on. It's one of those loans really where, yes, I'm sure it would have been better for him to go to the Championship, but he's going to play week in, week out in one of Europe's top flights, and it's all part of the experience for him as well. Getting away, being in a different country, it all improves you as a person and as a professional, and it'll be good for him. We'll check in on him, and that leads me nicely to the loan roundup. I did promise I was going to do one of those, I think, in the last video, so do a quick one of those. Brian Hill's doing well at Girona. Doing very well. It's probably not a shock, is it? We kind of know La Liga is where he's going to be in his happy place. Played 4 matches for the La Liga club since he's going back there. Started every single one of them. I think every game he's played more than 80 minutes. Scored a great goal against Osasuna. This lunging volley, which was very nice. And then Sunday evening, it was 2-0 win against Sevilla, his old side, of course. Just before the break, he made this really good run down the left-hand side. Played the ball into the path of the overlapping fullback, Miguel Gutierrez, and he passed for Ivan Martin, the captain, to score in the 6-yard box. So it all came from a really nice run and pass from Brian Hill. It was a nice cross, actually, in the second half. He put an absolute pinpoint one onto Abel Ruiz's head. He headed it straight at the keeper. And actually, Danjuma has gone to Girona, and he put the rebound over the bar. He started really well at Girona. Someone else that started pretty well, Manor Solomon for Leeds, got an assist on his debut in front of the Ellen Road crowd. Leeds beat Hull 2-0 last weekend. I watched it. It was a lovely, lovely assist. Went on this kind of just absolutely beat his man down the left and curled a beautiful ball into the 6-yard box where Matteo Joseph touched it in. Really, it's very nice. Very nice indeed. Got a nice little dribble in the first half as well and had a shot blocked. So, they're very happy with him as well. Daniel Farker said after the game, Solomon has experience in England. He's shown a lot. He was a bit in his rhythm already. I was sure he could deliver with his experience, and he did. It was also crucial to give that perfect assist. He's looked sharp in training. Various people saying he was man of the match. Leeds Live did their player ratings. He was man of the match, and theirs with 8 with the review. What an impact. Plenty of energy, dangerous running, and a vital assist. Yeah, it's what he needs. He needs to get rhythm in his legs. He needs to get game time. And he needs to just, remember what it's like to play football. 10 months out or so before he came back for a couple of friendly appearances. So, good one for him. Continuing the theme of very good starts to loans, Alejo Velith, Espanyol. Brilliant moment for him. If you haven't seen it already, last weekend, his first La Liga goal, 96th minute winner for Espanyol against Real Vallecano. It's brilliant. They made this kind of last gasp break up the pitch in added time. I think Irvin Cardona had a shot saved. Walid Chadera got it back across to him, and Velith kind of took this touch and then hit a sliding kind of curling shot over the recovering defender. It was just exactly... It's one of those funny ones where if he'd stayed on his feet, maybe he wouldn't have hit it as well. But it was actually exactly what was needed. And it was a little bit kind of... I don't know if I'm going to say sad, but he was very emotional. We did an interview after the match on the pitch, and he was very much... You can see I'm a bit knackered. That 10-mile run, my levels are a bit low, so sorry for the weird misspoken words and wrong words and things like that. But he did this interview on the pitch after the game, and he was very tearful. And And he just said, look, I had a year that honestly wasn't great for me in terms of my football. I just want to thank my family, my girlfriend who's always supported me, the coaching staff for giving me the chance to come here and prove myself, and my teammates. And it's like a real deep sobs interview. It's really sad. I guess it is sad. I've said it wasn't, and now I guess I have. Sad that I guess the last year hasn't gone well for him. He had that. He scored for Spurs, didn't he? Then got an injury against Bournemouth. Scored against Brighton. Injury against Bournemouth. Remember the ridiculous scenes of him trying to play on, and they were trying to get the ball out of play to get him off the pitch. And then Postecoglou had a bit of a bust up with the Bournemouth bench because they thought he was faking. And he was out for about 2.5 months. Went to Sevilla, which was just, just an absolute nightmare of a loan for him. It just didn't work at all. It was dreadful. Got given the number 10 shirt, I think it was, and absolutely didn't work at all. I'm just doubting myself. No, it was Sevilla. It was. For some reason, I started to tell myself in my head it was Valencia, but it wasn't. Was that Brian Hill that went there? But yeah, it was dreadful. He barely played any minutes. I think he played about a sum total of about 30 minutes, if that, across 3 appearances out of the half the season he was there. So I can understand it. And this, that moment, he threw his shirt off and was celebrating with the crowd, the home crowd as well, all going nuts for him. It was just, it's what he needed, really. And hopefully he kicks on from that. I think he's there number 9. So got a big shirt number. I think he's been starting every game as well. It's terrific for him as well. So yeah, he's only a young guy, isn't he? Still 20. Can't write him off at 20. He could have an amazing season in La Liga and he comes back a completely different, more developed player. We'll see. But it's the start. It's good first step. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is at Marseille. Technically, yes, he's leaving permanently, but the actual permanent kind of obligation part hasn't kicked in yet. So he is technically part of the loan crew. Just very quickly, he was captain for them last weekend. They won 3-1 against Toulouse away. He's also the captain of Denmark now, maybe slightly surprisingly. Eriksson and Schmeichel were the vice captains. He kind of surpassed them or leapfrogged them and took it over from Simon Kjær. I don't think that's the pronunciation of it, so I'm sorry to everyone that's Danish, and especially to Simon. But yeah, he hasn't tasted defeat yet as a Marseille player, Højbjerg. 1-2, drawn 1. Ashley Phillips at Stoke City. He's got his first couple of games under his belt for them in the Championship. Actually, no, one was in Championship, one was Carabao Cup. Kept a clean sheet, 5-0 win against Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup. Then I've written it down here. Oh yeah, of course he went to Plymouth, went back to Home Park Stadium. Plymouth, where he won Young Player of the Season last season for only being there for half the campaign. And yeah, did well, kept a clean sheet. 74 minutes, they won 1-0 Stoke. And Stoke-on-Trent's live player ratings gave him a 7.5. And they said league debut, very big and strong, literally carrying opponents on his back at one stage. Don't know why he was doing that, but there you go. Dane Scarlett, Oxford United. Yeah, it's not looking good again for Dane in terms of the minutes. 89th minute he came on in the first game, but the past 2 matches he hasn't played at all. Did get to play in the Carabao Cup, played 83 minutes against Coventry. They lost 1-0. Oxford Mail gave him a 6 with the review. Couldn't get into the game inside the penalty box and forced to drop deep just to get involved. So yeah, it's not a good one for Dane. I don't know if there were that many loan opportunities for him. Oxford, they've got goal scorers there, so he's just going to have to be patient, really, and hope for injuries, and guess they reassess it in January again. But yeah, he hasn't been helped, I think, by the clubs that have come in for him. I think it's very easy to say, I should have gone to this club, I should have gone. We all kind of say that. Like the classic cliched one that I say myself is, I'd like to have gone to an English club when it's like a foreign player that's gone back abroad. But if they don't come in for those players, it's as simple as that. You can't really do anything about it. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Dane, but not good so far. It's a long season, though. It is. Leyton Orient have now got Jamie Donnelly and Josh Keeley. They were both there. Jamie Donnelly's playing minutes galore. 4 matches for them. he started all three of the League One games. He only played 9 minutes in their Carabao Cup game, which, it's because they're saving him for the league games, really, because he's one of their creative hubs. Tough day at the office, though. 3-0 defeat against Shrewsbury. He even played at left-back towards the end as well. All that kind of training there for Spurs ended up kind of helping him, but he was out of position, really, for Shrewsbury's final goal. Maybe he's used to at Spurs. They kind of cover the flying fullbacks, whereas Orient were like, what are you doing up there? So there you go. Didn't work for him in that respect. But another learning experience. Josh Keeley has gone there. Obviously, it's too early for him. He signed a new 3-year deal at Spurs, but pretty much went there. And I think they'd headed off for their that game against Shrewsbury. So he was just really headed off to international duty, where I think he's done very well as well over this last week or so. And good praise for him. Richie Wellens, the Orient boss, said, we're really pleased Josh will be part of our squad. He'll come in to provide real competition for our goalkeeping department. It's an important next step in his career, and we know he'll come in and give his all for the club. He's highly rated by Spurs, also has international experience, Republic of Ireland under 21s, and had a successful loan spell at Barnet last season. Financially, it's a really good deal for us, and we're excited to have him on board. Martin Ling, just essentially, to paraphrase, adding to that he's very well thought of at Spurs. It's not paraphrasing because I'm actually saying the quote now. Dean Brill is the goalkeeping coach at Tottenham, and he's someone who I trust a lot, and he speaks very highly of Josh. He will provide more competition for that number 1 shirt, and we feel our goalkeeping department is in a very strong place for this season. So yeah, all good for them. At Barnsley, Matthew Craig's gone there. He's had a little minor calf injury he had, but he's been back in action the last couple of games. Played the full 90 minutes yesterday as they won 2-1 against Bristol Rovers. He's done well. He's played 4 games so far and settled in really well. George Abbott also played yesterday, made his first senior start as a player, which is brilliant. A big moment for him. Only 19 years old, the versatile Spurs under-21 skipper you might have heard me spoken about before. Played the 90 minutes. They won 2-0 at home against Accrington, did Notts County. Good ovation from the crowd. Plenty of plaudits for his performance as well as a defensive midfielder. So, brilliant for him. Richard Montague, who is Notts County's transfer chief, we'll call him. Really excited to welcome a young player of George's calibre. He's incredibly well thought of at Spurs, as reflected by the decision to give him a new 3-year deal this summer. Also has a growing reputation at international level, having represented England's under-19s and 18s. His natural position is defensive midfield, but he's also comfortable at fullback or in central defence. He gives us real strength and depth in several areas, and as well as tremendous quality in possession, he brings athleticism and a determination to succeed in his first full season in men's football. We're really pleased to have the opportunity to contribute to his development and have every confidence he'll make a big impact in his time with us. So there you go. That is George Abbott doing very well. Last one of the big loan roundup is Carrie Blodorn, a very young 19-year-old goalkeeper. He's got a loan to National League Southside Averley, which is a really good one. You might have heard me say this before. It's very difficult for goalkeepers to get loans. It just is. It's obviously harder than for outfield players because every team only has one spot really for a goalkeeper, and you're not going to loan someone out that's going to be a backup either. So it has to be to one of the clubs that has got an opening. And then, of course, there's lots of clubs looking to get their players out on loan to those. So, for Carrie Blodorn, he's done very well. He's got there, gone to Averley, slotted in well, played every game, I think, pretty much since he's arrived. Played yesterday in a 3-2 defeat at Cheshire United. But no, certainly very well there as the teenager. So, continuing the theme of looking how people are doing, I thought, it's an international break. I'll have a look and see how the players who have left the club in 2024 have done. Because it's been a lot. It's been a high turnover. Some of you might have wondering, what have they done since? What have these players gone on to do? Players like Tongi, Tongi and Dembele. Players like Emerson, headed off. Ryan Sessegnon. Hugo Lloris, what's he been doing since January? So if you're not interested, just skip it a little bit. And if you don't want to. But there's some little interesting bits and pieces that have happened with some of these former players. It's 16, including Højbjerg. I'm not going to talk about Højbjerg again. For the other 15, Lo Celso, of course, has now gone back to Real Betis. He's the latest of the crew to leave. yeah, he hasn't played yet, but of course he went straight off on Argentina duty, so we'll kind of have more on him. But he's there, £8.4 million deal plus add-ons and a sell-on clause, and of course this very unusual Johnny Cardosa deal where they can sign him for a cheaper fee in the future Spurs, or reportedly have a sell-on clause for a player they do not own. It's very, very strange, but part of the deal apparently. So to go into players that have played, Oliver Skipp. Skippy, of course, went to Leicester in the summer after 100 first-team appearances for Spurs. Spurs got more than £20 million for his sale. They will, plus a sell-on clause as well. And yeah, he's done all right. He came off the bench in the first game at Fulham. Started both of the matches since. 2-1 defeat in the Premier League to Villa and a 4-0 defeat. 4-0 win against Tranmere Rovers in the Carabao Cup. If you want to know how he did in his recent game against Villa, Leicester Live's player ratings gave him a 6 and said he was combative, busy, read the play well, and definitely added more balance to the team, helping Christensen out on the left, but his touch was sloppy at times, so he couldn't make the best use of his moments in possession. Emerson Royal. Emerson Royal has not had the best of starts, it's fair to say, in Italy. Obviously moved to AC Milan this summer, deal worth £12.6 million plus add-ons. Came on as a sub for the final 23 minutes of Milan's game, 2-1 defeat at Parma, and then he played 70 minutes of a 2-2 draw at Lazio. So Italian football expert James Horncastle, I think he works for The Athletic, did not hold back. He said, Milan keep conceding the same goal. Down Emerson Royal's side. His €15 million signing from Tottenham Hotspur looks like the biggest donation in the history of Milan as the club charitably tries to make his wish to become a footballer come true. That's some strong stuff. Yeah, there you go. So, Tongi Ndebele. Better times for Tongi. Obviously, Spurs came to an agreement to end his contract this summer. He ended up going to Nice, back to France and Ligue 1, and he's got what he needed, game time. He started all 3 matches for them so far. Played 87 minutes against Auxerre, 79 against Toulouse, and then 88 minutes against Angers. I think that's how you pronounce it, rather than Angers. Apparently very good. Dominant performance. Got an assist as well. One of those where there's compilation videos. If you want to watch it, there's compilation videos. If you want to beat yourself up about what he could have been for Spurs if he'd wanted it enough. Lots of tricks and flicks and everything moving the ball quickly forward. Yeah, it's such a shame. It just is. If he'd had half as much kind of application and attitude and will to be the best he can be as he does quality, he could have fitted in the Postecoglou system so well. But hey, he did not. As for the third member, that 2019 summer window, Ryan Sessegnon, he had a big moment, which was great in that, if you're not aware, went on a free transfer back to Fulham. And on last week, Carabao Cup, played the full 90 minutes. 2-0 win at Birmingham. First time he'd started a match, I looked back to see January 23. January 2023. It's mad. Before, obviously, the hamstring stuff really took hold again. And look, he's had operations on both legs. Hopefully that's going to be the difference for him now. That'd be brilliant. But yeah, big moment for him. Huge to get through that as well. And now they kind of had this nice international break time as well to kind of get him ready for the next one. Joe Rodon, he's just carried on where he left off. Played every minute of their 5 games so far, 4 in the Championship, 1 in the Carabao Cup. Of course, if you're not aware, he was part of the deal that brought Archie Gray to Spurs. And yeah, he's going to be a massive player for them this summer. And he's got Manor Solomon as well alongside him. Troy Parrott, yeah, obviously went to AZ Alkmaar, £6.7 million deal, which also includes a 20% sell-on clause, I understand. He started their first 4 matches, so he's getting the game time, playing the majority of minutes. They've 3 wins and a draw with him in the team. Hasn't scored yet. He got a couple in pre-season, but he hasn't scored yet, so that's got to come for him. Got a reunion with Spurs pretty quickly as well. Spurs play. He'll play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium October 24th in the Europa League. So yeah, he'll be looking to impress. Japhet Tanganga, equally lots and lots of minutes. Spurs didn't take up the option to extend his contract. Japhet, But yeah, he's doing really well at Millwall. He just looks really at home. Club trained player that Spurs probably could have done with, has been another centre back. But ultimately, there's no point keeping him for a handful of games in the European competition if he had played. But yeah, no, he's done very well there. And yeah, the only game he hasn't played for them was the Carabao Cup. They lost to Leyton Orient. Jamie Donnelly's Leyton Orient. Ivan Perisic left the club, of course, this summer. Technically, he'd already left on loan to head off to Hajduk Split. Yeah, it doesn't work for him there. Gennaro Gattuso, you might remember him from that brief night where we all thought he might become a Spurs' manager. He's gone to Hajduk, and yeah, something about him and Perisic has just clearly not worked. And yeah, Perisic's contract was mutually terminated last week. He's a free agent. We await to see where he heads. There were links with a move back to Serie A, but as of this moment, I think the last time I looked, he's still a free agent. So I don't think it is one that Spurs will look at because he's just got so many wingers, and he's not a left back, obviously. So yeah, I don't think. I mean, it got on well under Postecoglou, but I would be surprised if Spurs brought him back again, if they can. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can, as long as you register them before the date. But people, it's one of those when I started talking about it, and it was one of the few things I didn't look up before I started the chat, which was silly. Eric Dyer, we know what's happened to Eric Dyer. Obviously went to Bayern Munich and played a lot last season. It's been a bit more difficult so far this season. He's only had 9 minutes from the bench so far under Vincent Kompany. Not playing a lot of stuff. Being unused sub in a couple of matches as well in the Bundesliga and the German Cup. And the fact that Bayern have kept a clean sheet in each of those games, it hasn't really worked for him. So, yeah, not particularly working out for him this season, but of course a big move for him it was. Going a little bit younger, Djed Spence at Bell. Djed Spence at Bell was one of Spurs under-21's top performing players last season. Of course, helped them win the Premier League 2 title and the playoff trophy. Just wasn't really ever going to break into the first team. Just wasn't really getting close to it. So he headed off to Spanish second division, where he went to Cordoba. No fee, but a 40% sell-on clause instead, not clues. Made his debut yesterday in La Liga 2. Came off the bench for 18 minutes in a 0-0 draw against Malaga. He'd been an unused sub in the last couple of games. So that's great for him. That's his senior debut, or did he play for Chelsea in a cup game? Got a funny feeling he might have been close to the team if he didn't come on for Chelsea. Iago Santiago started very well. He's moved to Elche in Spanish second tier as well. Again, another one who just wasn't close enough to break into the first team and he just needed to play. So, yeah, he's done well. 3 starts, scored a goal last Monday against Cordoba, Sunset Bell squad club. Opening strike of the game, 32nd minutes, he really threw himself at the back post. If you can watch it, it's on, I think it was YouTube I watched it on. Throws himself to slide the ball in at the back post, clatters into the left-hand post in doing so, but managed to kind of play on. And I think he played 81 minutes till he came off, although he wasn't in the squad. I think they were playing Real Zaragoza today, and he wasn't in the squad. So whether something had happened to him, I don't know, but he wasn't in it. Niall John, he's also gone to a second-tier side, but in Portugal. He went to Firenze, and he's, been playing for them. 2 starts for them. 2 draws as well, coming off the bench in his 3rd game against Benfica B. So, getting the minutes. So, this is what all these young players want. And what the Academy's second purpose is. First purpose is to try and get them into the Spurs team, first team. If you can't, the next stage is to get them a good career somewhere. They're all playing minutes, the 3 of them, which is great. Charlie Sayers also has gone off. You might remember Charlie. He was brought in from Southend a couple of years back. Went on a pre-season tour 2 years ago to South Korea. It was that one. It just had a bit of a nightmare after that. He had an eye injury that I remember was people a little bit worried about it at one point. It was quite serious, but he came back from that. Had a couple of other injury woes, so his kind of progress has been interrupted. But he's gone to Partick Thistle. No, he hasn't. He played Falkirk at the weekend. Went to Partick Thistle in the Scottish Championship. Made his debut last month for them and was an unused sub the other day. And then played in Scottish Challenge Cup, third round yesterday, got 90 minutes under his belt as a centre-back. So, all part of his football education. And finishing off with Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris left the club, of course, in January for a new adventure in MLS football. Can't technically call it MLS football because it is already in Major League Soccer. In MLS, with LAFC, Los Angeles FC, after 11 years at Spurs. 37 years old now, played a lot of games for him already, 34 times, kept 15 clean sheets and conceded 37 goals in the other games. There's a lot of goals in the other games. But 15 clean sheets is decent. Kept a clean sheet yesterday against Houston in the MLS. Saved 4 shots. It was his 10th league clean sheet of the season, which ties him at the top for the most clean sheets in MLS. If you're wondering who also is tying with him, it's Patrick Schilt of Columbus Crew. He's had a few chances for silverware, actually, Lloris, in the last few weeks or so. Last month, LAFC went down 3-1 to Columbus Crew in the final of the Leagues Cup, which is a knockout competition featuring teams from the USA, Canada and Mexico, if you weren't aware. And they also went out of the US Open Cup last week at the semi-final stage to Seattle Sounders. So, yeah, he's had his opportunities to win more silverware on top of his World Cup, but he has not been able to add to that. So that's that. That's all the players that left the club. I'm trying to it's almost like an admin video, this. Try and do a lot of catch-up stuff and try and do little updates. Hopefully it's been interesting to some people. But looking ahead now to Sunday in the North London derby, of course, injury news is going to be the pressing one on Friday. I would be surprised if Solanke and Van der Ven aren't involved, but we'll see. That's me going off of what Postecoglou said. I've written it down here, the kind of things he said. I mean, Solanke was close for Newcastle. He said, Dom Solanke is close, but we're on the side of caution. He won't play at the weekend with the international week. We've made a decision to wait until after that. And he was asked a couple of weeks back whether... could he miss the North London derby then? He kind of shook his head and went, no, look, it's not serious enough to keep him out for 4 or 5 weeks. No, so he's still got a chance for a Newcastle game. That's the extent of it. It's just about how quickly he recovers. I mean, the rest of the stuff, I think I've already read out that he said, just a small hiccup. So yeah, I'd be surprised if he's not available for selection, but we shall see what the rest of this week brings. Mickey van der Ven, again, Postecoglou said he was close in training this week, but with the international break, it's not quite 100%. Nothing serious. We've got a heat programme straight after international break, so we're going to need all of our back four. Didn't go off on the... Solanke, by the way, was ankle injury. Van der Ven hyperextended his knee. A suggestion maybe picked up another little knock as the game wore on, but obviously the knee would have been the main issue. But yeah, didn't go with the Dutch for their international games, so you would hope that both are available. They need a striker up front, Spurs. They really do, especially in this game. Richarlison, of course, is the other one really of the senior group. Muscle injury for him. I think hamstring, but certainly a muscle injury. And he pulled up sore in training. Postecoglou, probably the best bit to maybe suggest that he might not be back by Arsenal. We'll see. But is when he was talking about Will Lancashire. Will Lancashire, if you're not aware, he has had a hamstring injury, but I think he should be back pretty soon. It was only going to keep him out really until the international break was done. And when he was speaking about Will Lancashire the other day, he said, if Richie is out for an extended period of time, then Will definitely be a part of it. Will and Mikey Moore have done really well in pre-season. We feel they'll benefit from being around the first team. So yeah, it's that kind of hinted that maybe he's wary that Richarlison will be out for a little bit longer. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Richarlison. But they just need a striker up front would be just ideal. It is Sunday, so there is that bit more time as well. And if Solanke can get a fair few kind of training days, Mickey van der Ven, of course, massively important as well. We shall find out pretty soon, I would imagine, in the days ahead. Players will start coming back. They'll all kind of be on to their second games really soon. if not already. Actually, yes, because second ones have started already today. Because I wrote down all the ones that will be when they'll be back. Bergvall and Kulusevski playing today. I think after I'm recording this, they've got a home game against Estonia. Monday night, you've got Pat Matisar. Senegal are playing Africa Cup of Nations qualifier away against Burundi. Ben Davies and Brennan Johnson playing for Wales in the Nations League in Montenegro. Dragoshin Monday night. Romania have got a home Nations League game against Lithuania. What else we got? Monday night, Udogi and Vicario taking on Manor Solomon's Israel in a Nations League game in Hungary. Archie Gray, under-21s, England under-21s, who's playing for them at home friend against Austria. Then on Tuesday, you've got Yves Bissouma will be in action for Mali away in their Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Eswatini. Yves Bissouma scored a very nice goal, another goal for his collection the other day. Sonny, captain South Korea in their World Cup qualifier in Oman. I think he is now gone ahead of Lee Young-pyo in terms of international appearances for South Korea. Sonny's got that. Wilson Odobert could fit. I said Bergvall, instead of Bergvall, didn't I? Silly little things that are going to bother me from now on. Wilson Odobert could. France under-21s playing at home on Tuesday night against Bosnia-Herzegovina in European under-21 Championship qualifier. And then later that evening, Christian Romero will be in action for Argentina in their World Cup qualifier away against Colombia. So that means technically the latest ones you'll get back will be Bissouma, Son and Romero, potentially training as late as Thursday. But like I said, having a Sunday game at least gives you 3 training sessions, really, or 3 days worth of training sessions with them. You would imagine that hopefully international players, their recovery day can be the one on the plane if you're coming from far away. Going back to that free agent thing, I was asked that in a little Q&A I did for work this week. And if it's possible, which I think it must be, I would be surprised if Spurs went into the free agent market unless there was an injury. That's the only way I could see them going into it. And it's mainly just because of the things Postecoglou said. Postecoglou is always talking about not signing short-term stopgap players just for the sake of having another body. You might remember I asked him about centre-backs. He said he didn't sign just anyone because there was nobody available that he actually wanted. His players are they have to fit his very specific system. And technically, if he'd wanted any of those free agents that are available now, they would have gone for him a little bit earlier in the window. So, look, if there's an injury and you've got no choice, then may well happen. But I would be surprised if it did purely from the fact that he's not really a stopgap kind of guy. He's very specific in his needs, and there's a few still out there. Adrien Rabiot's out there, Martial's out there, I think. Depay's going to Corinthians, isn't he? I think that's almost done. There's a few out there. There are, but we'll see. We'll see. If there's an injury, that will be the key one, won't it? Really. Otherwise, again, the squad staff and some of those players I've just spoken about, they'd be wanting big wages as well to be pretty much backup players. Rabiot would maybe could challenge for a place in there, but again, like I said, if he was someone that fitted Spurs' system and Postecoglou wanted him, you would have thought they'd have gone for him already. We'll see what the next week or so brings. I've got a few questions from the last one to do a Q&A with. When I realised that this one was probably going to have a fair bit to talk about, I thought, you know what, I'll try and do one in midweek, a video, and we'll do a Q&A. So if you've got any more questions, please do put them in, and I'll just group them all together from the last video and this one as well. We'll have a little chat and also include any updates that happen over the next couple of days. It's Spurs, so something will happen. I've got a feeling that there's some kind of like a financial deal in the pipe works. Not in terms of, sorry, I've said that wrong. Not a financial deal. That makes it sound like something completely different. Like a tech deal in the works that's coming for Spurs this month. Like a tech partner deal, like quite a big company that doesn't normally do this sort of stuff. So we'll see what comes of that. I don't know whether that's like a financial boost. I think it's maybe more to do with just the tech they're using. So it's not particularly exciting, but it was just something that I keep hearing about, but I don't know who it is with yet. But I just think it's with a big company. We'll see. We'll see what that is. That might be a little thing. There's other bits and pieces that I'm sure will pop up in the next couple of days that we can add to the Q&A as well. So yeah, probably going to head off now. As I said at the top of this, thanks again so much for the marathon donations, and it's just going to a wonderful cause. And like I said, it really did kick me on to knock 7.5 minutes off. Look, I'm not flying around because I'm very wary of my knees. I play a lot of football, so my knees are kind of dying. So for a marathon, I can even feel them when I'm doing training runs. So I'm not really pushing myself mega-wise, but 7.5 minutes was all right off my time, taking that off of it. I'm using the app Strava. So if anyone's on Strava, look me up. I'm on there. You can kind of see what I'm putting myself through, all in the name of charity and trying to challenge my body as well. But yeah, if you do want to donate, I'm going to pin the fundraising page into the top of the comments, and anything's just greatly appreciated. It's just a brilliant cause, and anything I can do to help, to be at 12.5 grand to be able to donate to it, it's just amazing. I'm just absolutely over the moon about it. It's fantastic. Proper football cliche there, over the moon. Right, time to head off. I'm probably going to fall asleep pretty soon, actually, because even a 10 miler, which is like less than half of what I've got to do on the day, you can just absolutely feel it drains you. But there you go. Enough of that. The money that I'm raising for the cause I'm raising for, there's people that have far bigger things to deal with. Time to head off. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.